The continuing saga of political payola continues. Well, I have newts, nit, and new. No, that's not right. Mit and moo. I have a notes here. I have a little, like a square of opposition. Revolution and sunspots, mimicry, and Joni Mitchell. And then I have dancing, small following, press coverage, music, press coverage. What does it all mean? Well, going back to this idea of payola, the criticism of the whole thing was essentially this. If I say to you, I like this Rolling Stones song, I'm going to buy the 45. Arguably, that is some expression of my approbation. However, that approbation through this innovation known as marketing could be effectuated in different ways. For instance, when Motown was out, Motown was fabulous. I love Motown. Berry Gordy is my hero, and Motown is one of the greatest music forms extant to humankind. So when it was out, I mean, I used to listen to the radio, and I would wait for the new Motown song. So, like, if the Rolling Stones wanted to stay as a popular band, well, they did do this one album, Aftermath, and they actually had Nitsky that was worked in conjunction with Phil Spector that did production of the girl groups that was kind of like a precursor to the Motown sound. Now, are you buying that record because it sounds like Brill or Motown, or are you buying it because it sounds like the Rolling Stones? You see, so there's different ways to effectuate this. But I look at revolutions, people used to refer to them like they do in the form of depression compared to recession. They would say a convulsion. In other words, people were tired of some situation in society, and they would have this small revolt against it. And then the powers that be, the status quo, conservatives, whatever you want to say that they are, would find some means in which to quell the convulsion, like a sunspot. So I look at conservatives and the status quo, police, military action, and all of this as a force trying to prevent sunspots from occurring, which is, of course, impossible. It can't be done. But we's going to try anyway. Well, I saw this documentary some time ago about Joni Mitchell, who is one of my all-time favorite people. I think that she is probably one of the most fabulous, not just recording artists, but just a fabulous artist altogether. I've always admired her. I fell in love with her voice when I was a teenager. I had to get this documentary just to see what she was all about. And it turns out that, you know, I used to play, as I discussed before, I used to play music. And I found something that was interesting in her documentary. She was discussing this transitional period between her having been an entertainer, and she really had this phenomenal drive. I mean, she'd go out and do these road shows by herself. First, she was with some guy, and she did shows with him, and then I guess they split up, but she continued to go on with what she referred to as mimicry. And I thought this was extremely interesting. And it's so very pertinent to what I'm talking about. Because she describes this transition that the process of moving beyond mimicry and doing something that was her own was her entry into this higher level. It was like a threshold type of experience where she entered in this higher level and, in my view, became an artist. So in terms of everything and anything that we do, in terms of writing, singing, speaking, whatever it is, you essentially have this same sort of threshold. And what it is that the mimicry aspect of it is actually promoted by society. The influence of money is used to promote mimicry as a way of metaphorically preventing or attempting to prevent sunspots, attempting to prevent convulsions. Because what happens essentially is that when someone does something new, it's usually because people are weary of commonality. Something goes on for a while, and then we want to do something new. We're tired of this. It's not necessarily because it's a bad thing. We just want something new, so that when something new does come about, there's this excitement. There's this feeling of release, and I'm having a hard time thinking of the words here. Stimulus. So the conservatives are always worried about this sort of thing. So they try to quell it, and they try to bring it down. So for instance, going back to this thing with approbation, I discovered this. It was very depressing to me because I came to dancing. It was something I always wanted to do, but I came to it later in my life. And at the period of time I became involved in it, there was this immense paranoia about homosexuals. It was, if you're a male dancer, you're a queer. There's absolutely no question about it. So there was this big thing for many years. I'm a male dancer, but I have children, I'm married. I remember there was some movie with Gregory Peck, and there was some guy in it. He was, I guess, a regular dancer, and Gregory Peck was like making fun of him and stuff. And they had this confrontation, and I'm married, I have children. It's similar to like this guy that's in the military that was bitching at the police. It's like, well, he could do that because he's a veteran, so he has special privileges. There was some man, his son was killed by he claims the man wasn't a criminal, he was a terrorist. And they had this big controversy with this Representative King, he hates Occupy Wall Street and all this. And I really didn't understand what the hell the big deal was, but it was some sort of political issue. But the whole idea was, think of all the horrible shit that happens to people in the United States every day. They're never going to appear before Congress. They're never going to have a hearing before Congress. Some person is brutally murdered. They're not going to go before Congress. But he was in the military, so he gets to go before Congress. Well, it's a similar effect to what people are programmed to respond to in terms of the press. If I went around telling everybody I was going to be in a dance show, nobody would give a shit. No matter what I said, no matter what I did, no matter how fabulous the artwork on posters were, people just wouldn't give a shit. But if you get a review in the newspaper, all of these people just all of a sudden fill the theater. It's like as if somebody said, well, did you hear Tommy's having a show? Well, I didn't read anything about it in the newspaper. And then all of a sudden, oh, well. It was very similar to when I was playing blues music. I spent a long time. I used to practice. I played guitar, finger picks and slides, and a harmonica and a rack, and a bass drum and hi-hat with my feet. And I used to practice every day for hours, just to be able to, have my voice in shape and be able to blow on the harp and, the coordination thing and everything, and to play guitar. And I wasn't bad, I mean, you know, but it was like I was still in the mimicry thing and all. But I thought, well, you know, it's something to see. I came from a period of time where live music was a special thing. If someone was going to have a house party, you know, whether it was a sex party or sex just happened, or whether people there were there to drink or use drugs or whatever it was, having live music there was a special thing. Even if it was some sort of a picnic that somehow, you know, devolved into some sort of orgy, which I think is a natural thing. It had a special significance, but after a while, people would just bring outdoor stereo speakers from their automobiles or whatever, and it became less of an importance thing. Now, when I was researching this payola, I see this thing here where people are paying to play, pay to play. There are clubs where you pay. You pay money to the club. I mean, this is absolutely unbelievable. I would, you know, we used to kid around. There used to be like a joke. People just have regular jobs. It's like, who do you have to blow in order to get hired? Or who do you have to blow to get something done here? And it was like, we used to kid around. It's like, well, these clubs don't want to pay us any money to play. It's like, why don't we ask them how much they want? You know, how much do you want for us to play here? How much do we pay you? And they're actually doing it now. They actually have these places that are like this. It's just absolutely unbelievable. Did that affect this whole monetary thing? The agents of the new economy, did they have something to do with that? Absolutely. Because all of these, you know, rock and roll has got to go and go it shall. Strom Thurmond and all of these guys, they essentially use that to win their point. They got all the rock and roll off the radio, and they got this Rush Limbaugh and all these freaks on here, you know, this I can't ever remember the guy's name here, the shock jock guy, who really isn't much different. I mean, he knuckles under and submits to all of this stuff too. Otherwise, they wouldn't let him be on. But it was the very same thing. It was like for a long period of time, I'd play in these clubs and nobody would pay attention to me. And then all of a sudden, somebody decided, this guy's, you know, this is pretty good. I'm going to write a newspaper article about it. And we were playing in this place. It's not even there anymore. Casa Linda in Binghamton, and the place was packed. It was a little tiny place, but it was like packed. It was, you couldn't walk around or anything, just because somebody said, "Oh, it's in the newspaper," you know. So how do you overcome that? Do you overcome that and try to play their own game, or do you find different ways? And you do. You have to find. I have to find, and you have to find a different way of making that connection, reforming that bonding with people through reason, rather than these other devices that were created by these principal agents of the new economy.